Hello, Annie, Wache, bonjour. My name is Nicole Fortier-Levesque, and I am your NDP candidate for Kapuskasing, Timmins, Meshkegowuk. Thank you for being here today. Mon nom est Nicole Fortier-Levesque. Je suis votre candidate pour le NPD pour Kapuskasing, Timmins, Meshkegowuk. Merci d'être ici aujourd'hui. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are gathered on the traditional lands of the Matagami First Nation, Flying Post First Nation, and Matachewan First Nation, and in the homeland of many Ojibwe, and in the homeland of Cree, Oji-Cree, Algonquin, and Métis people. We are meeting today in Treaty 9 territory, also known as the James Bay Treaty, a place rich with indigenous history, culture, and strength. As we gather here, it's important to recognize the ongoing relationship between indigenous people and these lands. This acknowledgement is more than words. It's a commitment to listening, learning, and working toward true reconciliation in partnership with First Nations, Métis, and Inuit communities across Northern Ontario. I also want to recognize my fellow candidates here today. Laura, Mayor from Sault Ste. Marie, Algoma. Valerie Kennedy from Nipissing, Timiskaming. Andréane Chénier from Sudbury East, Manitoulin, Nickel Belt. In addition to Carol Hughes, MP of Algoma, Manitoulin, Kapuskasing. And Gilles Bisson, former MPP for Timmins. Today we're here to talk about something deeply important, the future of our communities, our healthcare, and our economy in Northern Ontario. Families across the North are proud of where we come from, but they're being asked to do more and more with less. It's unacceptable that people have to drive hours just to see a doctor or pay sky-high prices just to put food on the table. We're fighting to protect what makes Canada, Canada, our public health care, our strong communities, and the promise that no one gets left behind. Donc, nous sommes ici pour protéger ce qu'il y a de plus important au Canada et de faire en sorte que le Canada soit notre Canada. Nos soins de santé, nos communautés qui sont très fortes et les promesses, ce ne sont pas seulement que des promesses. Le NPD, lorsqu'on dit qu'on fait quelque chose, on le fait. On délivre. Où personne n'est laissé pour compte. Donc, on prend soin de toutes nos résidentes et tous nos résidents, tout le monde qui vit dans notre circonscription. C'est ça. And we're not just talking about it. We've already delivered major wins like dental care, pharmacare, safer workplaces, and anti-scab legislation. All this with just a fraction of the seats. I'm incredibly proud to be standing alongside our NDP team and to fight for a Northern Ontario where family can thrive. And there's no better person to lead that fight than the leader of Canada's New Democrats. Please join me in welcoming our leader, Jagmeet Singh.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. Hey. Yeah. Let's go. Merci. Merci tout le monde. Merci. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. And give it up again for our incredible candidate, Nicole Fortier-Lévesque. As Nicole said, today we're here to talk about something very important. We know already that life in a lot of ways is getting harder and harder in the north. And with the chaos created by Donald Trump, the uncertainty, the unpredictability, it's making that even more worrisome. People are worried about what it means. And Northerners have always felt like they've been ignored by Ottawa. People in the north often feel like, we don't matter because people don't give us that attention. That's wrong. The north matters. And New Democrats have always shown that we are strong voices for the north. And as Nicole pointed out, we were able to deliver these things, these important advances, but we were only able to do that because you voted for us, because Northerners sent us to Ottawa, because you voted for us, we were able to deliver things like pharmacare, dental care, and anti-scab legislation. That's right. So today, I'm proud to be able to unveil our Northern Ontario platform, a platform to talk about how we can make life better in the north and our commitments to Northerners. So I want to start with healthcare. We know that to build a strong north, people need access to healthcare. And for a lot of people, as Nicole mentioned, you can't find a family doctor. You can't access the care you need. So what our commitment is, we're going to train Northerners to become physicians. We're going to make sure Northerners we want people to be able to stay in their communities. What better way to ensure that family physicians, that doctors stay in the north if we train Northerners to become those physicians? And we invest in regional medical schools to train those northern physicians. So that's one of our major commitments, along with ensuring for Indigenous justice that we fully implement Jordan's principle. It's about justice and equity to Indigenous kids. We can't see a scenario where people are fighting over jurisdiction while a young kid doesn't get the care they need. We'll fully implement Jordan's principle and make sure Indigenous kids get the care. We also know that groceries, as Nicole pointed out, it's a big struggle to afford groceries in the north. And so our commitment, we've got many commitments, but one of them is we're going to fix Nutrition North. It's not working, we'll make it work. We'll make it work. Nutrition North was supposed to provide access to affordable, nutritious meals and food. It's not doing that. We're going to fix it to make sure it actually delivers that goal, that people can get nutritious meals in an affordable way. We'll fix it. We'll also impose price caps for grocery essentials on those large corporate grocery stores to bring down the price of food in the north and across this country. Another major part of our plan for the north is we need to invest in infrastructure in the north. Now, investing in this infrastructure is about equity, it's about fairness, it's also about safety and security, and it's also about economic development. Like, how can you get in and out of communities and move products around if there's not the right roads, the right infrastructure? So our commitments, we're going to twin across Canada, Trans-Canada. We're also going to twin highways 7 and 11 to make sure these communities That's going to make those highways safer. It's going to make it easier for people to get around the communities in the north. And for a lot of more isolated communities, their only real way to move products in and out is through winter roads. But with the climate change and the unpredictability around that, that season is getting shorter and shorter and more unpredictable. So these communities need all-season roads, permanent roads to be able to get in and out of those communities. And finally, another element of our plan for the North is to support the Francophone communities in the North. The North has a strong community of French-speaking folks, of Francophones who are proud that they speak French. Well, these Northerners that are Francophone need to be able to access their services in French, in both official languages. So we're going to make sure that that happens.
Hear, hear.
And one final piece on supporting the Francophone communities, there are very important post-secondary institutions that need federal supports as well. I'm thinking about Université de Hearst, and I'm thinking about Collège Boréal. We need to make sure that these institutions are supported, and they're strong, and they're real viable options for young people to continue their education. And while we talked about some of the things that we delivered because you voted for us, because Northerners voted for New Democrats, you supported New Democrats getting to Ottawa, we were able to deliver things. And one more thing I want to point out, there's a hospital, the Winnebago Hospital, that Liberals had walked away from. They weren't going to continue the program, and the renovation was at risk for being canceled. We fought back because you voted for us, and we were able to secure $1.2 billion to make that hospital a reality. Well, that's because of you. That's because of Northerners. That's because you sent us there. That's because you voted for us that we together were able to do this. So what are the other parties saying? Well, we know that Mark Carney is talking about cuts. He's proposed $43 billion in cuts to the operating budget, which is services. And we know how that story is going to end up. It's going to impact the North. When they cut services, they're going to cut services in the North. That's less family physicians. That's less doctors, less nurses in the North. That's less of the investments we need in the critical infrastructure in the North. That's not the plan forward. And Pierre Poilievre's plan is one of cuts. He wants to cut massively. And what do those cuts mean? Well, it's going to cost Northerners. Northerners need investments in infrastructure and healthcare. And Pierre Poilievre is saying that he's going to cut those things. That's not what Northerners need. What you need is someone that's going to fight for you, not the billionaires. Someone that's going to fight for everyday people, not those at the very top. And that's what New Democrats are all about. We're here to fight for you. We know that Ottawa works best when one party doesn't have all the power. We know that Conservatives want to cut, and sadly the Liberals won't do what's necessary unless they're forced to do it. And the only way we force them to do it is when people vote for New Democrats and send us to Ottawa so we can fight for you. So that's what I ask you to do in this election. Send this great Northern team to Ottawa and we'll fight for you and deliver for you. All right, I'm going to do that again in French and then I look forward to your questions. Donc, je suis tellement fier d'être ici avec nos candidats et candidates. On a une équipe incroyable des candidats. J'ai oublié de mentionner en anglais le fait que notre équipe du Nord, c'est totalement des femmes. Ça, c'est incroyable. On est tellement fiers de ça. Ce sont des femmes fortes, passionnées, qui vont se battre pour vous. Et donc aujourd'hui, je veux parler du fait que oui, on sait que c'était déjà difficile de vivre dans le Nord. Et souvent, dans le Nord, les gens se sentent que nous sommes laissés à côté. Et c'est souvent le cas que Ottawa ignore les réalités sur le terrain dans le Nord. Avec le chaos créé par Donald Trump, ça peut empirer les choses. Donc aujourd'hui, je suis tellement fier de présenter notre plan, notre plateforme pour le Nord de l'Ontario. Ce plan, quelques éléments que je vais partager aujourd'hui, c'est un plan pour investir davantage dans le Nord, pour aider les gens dans le Nord, pour garantir qu'on va représenter les intérêts des gens dans le Nord. Donc, je vais partager quelques éléments, commençons avec la santé. On sait que pour plusieurs personnes dans le Nord, c'est tellement difficile d'avoir accès aux soins de santé. Vous devez voyager trop long pour avoir accès aux médecins. Donc, on va régler ça. Et une étape, c'est de former les médecins dans le Nord qui vivent dans le Nord pour rester dans le Nord. Ça, c'est une façon. Et pour former ces médecins dans le Nord, on va investir pour avoir la formation pour les médecins dans le Nord. Ça veut dire des universités et une équipe régionale pour avoir des endroits pour former les médecins dans le Nord. Et finalement, un autre élément que je veux ajouter pour le Nord, c'est le fait qu'on va avoir une mise en œuvre complète du principe Jordan pour garantir accès aux soins de santé pour les enfants autochtones. Coût de la vie, c'est une grande question dans le Nord, mais particulièrement les épiceries. C'est tellement difficile de faire l'épicerie parce que ça coûte trop cher. Et le programme Nutrition Nord ne fonctionne pas. Donc notre engagement, c'est qu'on va régler Nutrition Nord pour qu'il puisse fonctionner pour les familles et réduire le coût des épiceries. Et pour réduire le coût des nourritures, le coût d'épicerie en général, on va mettre en œuvre un plafonnement des prix des épiceries essentielles pour réduire le coût de la vie pour les gens dans le Nord. Dans le Nord, l'infrastructure, c'est vraiment important. C'est une question d'équité, c'est une question de sécurité, c'est aussi une question de développement économique. On a besoin des routes pour connecter les communautés. Donc, notre engagement, on va doubler les routes Trans-Canada, mais aussi les routes 7, les autres routes 7 et 11. Et pour plusieurs communautés autochtones, ils sont dépendants sur les routes dans l'hiver. Mais souvent, avec le changement climatique, ces routes, ce ne sont pas garanties. C'est difficile. De plus en plus, il y a moins de temps pour avoir ces routes d'hiver. Donc, notre engagement, c'est on va construire des routes pour toutes les saisons, pour avoir plus de connexions pour ces communautés dans les régions plus nord. Et finalement, il y a une communauté francophone dans le Nord tellement forte. On est fiers de ça et on va les appuyer. Ça veut dire que vous devez avoir accès pour les services dans les 2 langues officielles et on va garantir cet accès. Et pour encore faire la promotion de la francophonie dans le Nord, ça veut dire qu'on doit aussi appuyer les universités des collèges francophones. Ça veut dire Université de Hearst et Collège Boréal. On va les appuyer. On a partagé plusieurs exemples de comment le fait que vous avez voté pour l'NPD, on aurait pu livrer les marchandises, on aurait pu livrer les soins dentaires, l'assurance médicaments, mais aussi un projet spécifique dans le Nord. Il y avait un hôpital Winnebago qui a eu besoin des investissements, une rénovation. Et les libéraux ont dit non, on ne va pas continuer avec cet investissement. On s'est battu fort pour vous. Et on a forcé le gouvernement de mettre en œuvre un financement, un engagement de 1,2 milliard de dollars pour faire cette rénovation. C'est grâce à vous. Mais tout ça, c'est grâce à vous. C'est grâce au fait que vous avez voté pour l'NPD, vous avez envoyé des députés néo-démocrates à Ottawa, qu'on aurait pu livrer la marchandise comme ça. Donc, pour le futur, je vous encourage, votez pour l'NPD, envoyez des candidates fortes pour défendre les intérêts du Nord de vos communautés. Merci.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. On va maintenant passer à la période de questions des journalistes. Une question et une relance. We'll now take the questions from the press. One question, one follow-up. We'll begin with Abigail Beeman, CTV.
Hi there, Mr. Singh.
Hi.
I spoke with an expert who believes that one of the goals of the riding restructuring in Northern Ontario was to encourage more Indigenous engagement in politics. I'm wondering if you can speak to the importance of that and tell us whether you're running any Indigenous candidates in Northern Ontario.
Well, one right behind me is Sault Marie. Indigenous candidate. And yes, we've got a number of Indigenous candidates across the country. But just let me talk a bit about this. For New Democrats, we don't just prioritize Indigenous communities during a campaign, but we meet with Indigenous communities throughout the years in between campaigns. And for us, what is fundamental is we can't defend what makes us Canadian. If we talk about how we want to fight back against the 51st state, fight back against Donald Trump, if we don't wrap ourselves in what it means to be Canadian. And what it means to be Canadian is to ensure that there's reconciliation for the first people of this land, that there's justice for the first people of this land, that there's fairness and equity for the first people of this land. And so for New Democrats, this is a fundamental part of who we are. We are always going to fight for justice for Indigenous people. We cannot have a fair country, a just country, unless the first people of this land enjoy basic human rights, fairness, and justice.
I'm also wondering if you can, what you would say to critics who say that Indigenous issues have not been enough of a focus this campaign, and why you aren't challenging your opponents to make it more of an issue.
I would say those critics are right. We have not heard from any other leaders in terms of Indigenous issues. In fact, no other leaders even do land acknowledgements. We're the only party committed to acknowledging the land that we're gathered on. At each of our press conferences, we open with a land acknowledgement. We've not seen that from Mark Carney. We've certainly not seen that from Pierre Poilievre. And it shows a lack of respect and a lack of importance of Indigenous issues, which is wrong. And so, yes, I issued this challenge today. I've raised this in Parliament, in question period. Throughout my career, I challenge the parties, the other parties, to make Indigenous issues a fundamental and important issue in this campaign, because it is fundamental and important. We can't move forward as a country unless the first people of this land have access to water, to dignified homes, to health care, to education, to the basic needs that everyone should have and that Indigenous communities have been denied for so long. So we're going to continue to fight for that.
Merci beaucoup. Prochaine question, Valérie Gamache, Radio-Canada.
Monsieur Singh, ce matin, vous n'avez pas parlé de gisements de minéraux critiques dans votre allocution. Vos adversaires, lorsqu'ils sont passés ici, ont parlé d'une part d'en faire un projet d'intérêt national du côté de M. Carney, du côté de M. Poilievre, de s'assurer là, que ce projet-là, notamment le projet du cercle de feu, voit le jour. Quelle est votre position là-dessus?
Je pense que le développement des minéraux critiques et les cercles de feu, c'est important. Mais on ne peut pas le faire sans avoir l'infrastructure nécessaire, sans avoir les investissements nécessaires dans la communauté, sans avoir un bon système de santé pour soigner les gens, des routes pour connecter les communautés et le respect pour les communautés autochtones. Donc la seule façon qu'on peut aller de l'avant, c'est en faisant ça.
Okay, donc, quelles conditions devraient être réunies pour que le NPD appuie ce projet de cercle de feu?
Donc, quelques éléments sont primordiaux pour n'importe quel développement dans les communautés. D'abord et premièrement, on doit avoir une garantie qu'il y a un travail qui est collaboratif. On travaille ensemble comme des partenaires. Souvent dans le passé, c'était Ottawa qui impose des projets. Ce n'est pas acceptable. On doit avoir une approche où on travaille ensemble avec les communautés autochtones et on doit avoir aussi des garanties que les communautés autochtones sur leur terrain où on va avoir des développements, premièrement, ils sont d'accord, mais aussi ils vont avoir un bénéfice pour leur communauté aussi. Ça, c'est essentiel parce qu'ensemble, on peut créer des projets comme ça. Yeah, so we absolutely believe that there's a great opportunity to develop critical minerals and the Ring of Fire, but that cannot happen unless there's the right infrastructure in place. So roads to connect communities, roads and infrastructure so that communities can actually be able to extract the minerals and be able to move them around. We also know that none of this can happen unless we work in collaboration with Indigenous communities. For too long, Ottawa has imposed these projects, and that is wrong. What we want to see happen is that these projects move forward in a way where we are in partnership with Indigenous communities, that they are also going to see shared prosperity, that they benefit from projects that happen on their land, that there's an economic benefit to those communities. So collaboration, partnership, working together, and making sure there's an economic benefit to the communities impacted. And we're talking about that today.
Thank you. Next question, Olivia Stefanovic, CBC.
Good morning, Mr. Singh. You're losing two experienced MPs in Northern Ontario, Charlie Angus and Carol Hughes, who's just behind you. What makes you think you can hold your seat count here?
Well, we know for a long time people in the North have seen what you get with a New Democrat. When you have someone like Carol Hughes and someone like Charlie Angus, you get fighters that stand up for the North, that fight for the North, and that deliver for the North. And we only were able to do that because people voted for us. The fact that the Liberals were going to move away from the Winnebago Hospital renovations, that investment, they had thrown their hands up and said, no, we're not going to go ahead. I met with the hospital folks who said, well, we're going to have to cancel contracts. We already had contractors ready to go. We had things in place that we're going to have to cancel. We fought back and we secured the investments, $1.2 billion to renovate that hospital. We made that happen. But we only could do that because people voted for us. Carol and Charlie could only fight for people in the way they did because you voted for them. So if you want to have strong voices that are going to stand up for you and deliver for the North, if you vote for New Democrats and send New Democrats to Ottawa, we'll continue that fight. Oui, oui. Donc, on reconnaît leur travail et on est tellement reconnaissant du fait que Charlie et Carol ont contribué massivement dans notre mouvement et dans le Nord. Et aussi, le fait qu'ils ont eu l'occasion de se battre pour vous, c'est parce que vous avez envoyé, vous avez voté pour Carol et Charlie, qu'ils auraient pu défendre vos intérêts. Donc, si vous voulez quelqu'un encore qui va se battre pour vous, comme Carol a fait, comme Charlie a fait, vous avez le pouvoir de voter pour les néo-démocrates, pour les envoyer à Ottawa, pour défendre vos intérêts.
And with the slowdown in the economy, how exactly would you like to see the Canadian government prepare for a possible recession?
This is a real worry on a lot of folks' minds. We're seeing that the chaos and the uncertainty created by Donald Trump and the trade war could have really significant impacts on our country. We've already seen some serious job losses, and I'm worried about those folks. I'm worried about their families. And that's why we said the number one thing we need to do immediately is to help those folks that do lose their jobs keep their homes and keep food on the table. And right now, employment insurance does not cover enough of a worker's salary to pay the bills. Maybe 40 years ago, EI was enough to cover, if you covered half of someone's salary, it could have covered the bills and groceries. It doesn't work anymore. Right now, workers are spending their entire salary just to keep the roof over their head and food on the table, and EI is not up to the task. So while Mark Carney has given a tax cut to millionaires, has had time to meet with the king in Europe when he was prime minister, or the king in the United Kingdom, he didn't have time to increase the amount that workers receive, knowing full well that workers are going to lose their jobs as a result of this trade war. So that's the first step. We got to make sure that we are supporting Canadian workers. And then right alongside that, we need to invest in our country. And so we talked about infrastructure. We got to build Canadian. We got to buy Canadian. We got to support Canadian workers. And that's what we've got to do.
Nous allons maintenant passer à la période de questions en ligne. We will now proceed to online question period with Emily, Globe and Mail.
Interesting. Yves-François Blanchet says that the Greens didn't pass the criteria for the debates based on the endorsed candidate level. They didn't have as many candidates signed up for the endorsed with Elections Canada. Do you think they should participate?
That's not something that I'm really particularly worried about. I'm in this campaign, I'm really focused on the choice that Canadians have to in this really uncertain time, to vote for New Democrats who have delivered for you, who've delivered things like pharmacare and dental care. The opportunity that Canadians have again to vote for New Democrats and send us to Ottawa to fight for you again. So I'm really focused on that choice, that in all of this uncertainty and all of this chaos, who's actually going to fight for you? And not the billionaires, not the CEOs. Who's going to stand up for everyday people? Did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, actually, the Northern Ontario School of Medicine has been working to train Northern medical workers. Are you, like, how would you plan on, are you planning on expanding that? If so, by how much? How, like, what's your plan?
Yeah, certainly. So yes, absolutely. We need to expand that. The idea of training, one of the things that we've seen as a challenge in northern and remote and rural communities is that, of course, there's not enough physicians there. And so one of the ways to ensure that we actually have physicians that are in the north, people, there's ways to compensate or to properly pay and to provide incentives, all are good. But one of the best ways to ensure someone stays in the north is if they're actually from the north. So training northerners to become physicians in the north is what we're proposing. And to do that, we want to expand those regional medical schools, have more ways to train workers in the north.
Thank you very much, everyone. That concludes our press conference. Ça termine notre conférence de presse.
Merci. Thanks so much. You guys were amazing, by the way.